Well, hi there and welcome back to the channel. So I've got a few weeks away working and I won't be able to do too much stuff for the channel, so I thought I'd get ahead of myself and video a couple of things before I went away. And it struck me that I did a preview of Cheffins and I did a preview of Weeting auction at the rally at the weekend, and I just wondered whether you thought you might like to see what I actually bought at both of those auctions, because I did actually put my hand in my pocket and buy some stuff. So yeah, without further ado, let's have a look. So firstly, from Weeting auction, which was on Saturday morning, it was a Barry L. Hawkins auction, local to that area, and there was a couple of things in that auction which I would sort of like the look of. I'm really looking for an anvil, but every anvil I see, they're absolutely huge, and I don't need a huge anvil. I just want something that's a nice sort of size that I can not trip over every 5 minutes. And in the auction there was 3 or 4 anvils actually. One was a double-ended one, one was broken, and then there was 2 others, one quite a nice size on a stand, and then one very similar but without a stand. But those 2, one of them made £200 and the other one made close to that, and I don't need an anvil that much. So one day I will put my hand in my pocket and buy an anvil, but I've done without one for so many years. I don't need one right now when they're that sort of money, and they won't come down in price anytime soon. They seem to be very sought after. But there was also a winch which I'm looking for, a £13,000 winch, which I'm looking for my trailer so that I can pull the big tractor on much more safely, because the Hartpa is a real pain to load when I'm loading it on the trailer on my own. But I missed out on that as I didn't get to the lot in time, and I missed out on that. So carrying on down, I did notice this lot of 3 very useful jacks. They're all 3 of them are screw jacks. The first one is the trailer jack, which is on screen now. There's a nice Acme thread in this boss here, with a spigot with a hole for a clip, and that spigot would then go through a hole in the drawbar of the trailer, and this would sit on the ground. This would be a swivel foot, so that you could turn the screw thread in the foot without the foot turning, and that just needs unseizing. And the reason I bought it was because it was in the lot of the other 2, but about a year ago I needed something like this. I got round it with a different solution, but something like this would have been ideal for what I was doing at the time. And I thought, I'm going to get this. Well, I'm going to see how much it makes first, but I'm going to see what they make and then probably bid on this, because it's quite a useful thing to have for a future project. So I need to, it is already, that's turning on the screw thread, but I do need to unseize the foot. The handle is moving as well, so that's all good. It just needs a bit of a clean up with a wire brush and some grease and oil and unseizing at the foot. So that was the first thing in that lot, so I was quite pleased with that. The second thing was this screw jack, which I've never seen the like of before, and it's an Earn Lake. If I just turn it around and show you, it's an Earn Lake number 245. I don't know the safe working load of it. It doesn't actually say, but I like the look of it, and the good thing about it was it's free, as in free to turn. It wasn't free to buy. It's got a ratchet and pawl on the back, so there's your pawl there. It's not spring loaded or anything. All you need to do basically is to jack it up or down. You put the pawl whichever way around you want to go. Currently it's going up. Bar in there, and then if you want to drop the jack, you turn the unit over and your pawl goes the other way, and then it screws the jack down and goes back down again. And it's all free to turn. I'm quite happy with it. It's got cobwebs on it, it's got a bit of rust and stuff, but again, a nice do over with a wire brush, some grease and some oil, and it will be good to go. And the other thing, which I've never seen before, is it's got a top to it, so you can actually extend the top of it. I thought that was quite natty. I've never seen anything like that before. Now that is quite small, so you have to be a bit careful, and also the base isn't hugely wide, but if it's on a nice flat floor and sturdy, I think that would be quite a good jack. So I'm quite happy with that. And the last jack in the lot was this one here. And I like this one because it's a Duff jack. It's also 5-ton capacity, so it's a pretty hefty bit of kit. It's nice and low, which is very useful because it will jack up small tractors and it will jack up small cars and stuff like that, or Land Rover sort of size cars. You know, it's a 5-ton capacity at the end of the day. It's pretty hefty. It's got a nice wide base on it and a handle. Few cobwebs under there, no damage to it whatsoever. The screw turns in the screw head, so I'm quite happy with that. The only thing I've got to do is just free off this part here, the ratchet mechanism. So the ratchet is actually free, it does move, so that works. And yeah, I'm really happy with this. So I'm pleased that I've got these. And the best part about it was 10 quid for the 3 jacks. £10. You cannot sneeze at 10 quid for 2 really useful jacks and 1 really useful trailer jack. So I'm very pleased with that. And why did I buy, other than the fact that they came for 10 quid and I just like the look of them, why did I buy screw jacks? Well, everybody tells you never to go underneath a vehicle with just the jack supporting it. And the main reason for that is because most jacks are hydraulic, and you do not want to rely on the hydraulics staying up while you are underneath the car. This type of jack, of course, it's a screw jack, and there's no way that this is going to come down on top of you while you're working underneath it. So it's safer for a start. Arguably, it's a little less convenient because you've got to wind it back and forth to get it up and down, but in the grand scheme of things, it is a lot safer. And also that you can then also use it as an axle stand as well. So you could put this on the ground, jack it up in your normal way, and then screw this and adjust it with the screw thread, so it becomes an axle stand of varying height. And the screw goes right down to the bottom, so the height of it would be somewhere at least as much again. So quite useful from that point of view. Now, I would never advocate using a screw jack as just a means of support. I would always put another axle stand under there, but you're halfway there, if not more, with using a screw jack instead of a hydraulic jack, because this is never going to come down on top of you, because the hydraulics can never fail because they don't exist. So the only way this is going to come down is if it breaks. It's a 5-ton jack. This is not going to break anytime soon when I'm trying to lift up a Land Rover or a tractor that only weighs 1.5 tons. So happy days. 10 quid. What a result. Very pleased. So I don't think you can sniff at 10 quid for 3 jacks like this. I think it's a very good buy. And I'm going to free off everything and lubricate it all up. Give them a coat of paraffin or diesel to make them look a bit lived in, and keep them from going rusty again. And they will go in my jack stash for use in future projects. So the first thing I do when I see a Cheffins auction come up is I go onto the website and I type in to the catalogue the search words heart. The second thing I type in is Oliver, because I'm always looking for literature to do with either Hart Parr Oliver, Oliver Hart Parr, or Oliver. And the reason for that is I'm quite interested in Oliver tractors and their origins. And this time around, when I typed in Hart, this is what came up. And what you can see on the table is basically one lot of Hart Parr literature. Now, I think all of it is reproduction, because it is all in very good condition, with the possible exception of the poster in the middle. But I think if this poster was original, it would be the best part of 100 years old, and I think it would be a lot more faded and a lot more dog-eared than this one actually is. So this is what came up in one lot, and I paid £25 for the whole thing. Now, I've got quite a fair amount of Hart Parr and Oliver literature, mostly parts lists and workshop manuals and operators manuals, because all of that sort of information is really important when you want to do repairs and restore tractors. Parts lists are invaluable, so you can see where things fit. And workshop manuals also very important, because you can see how to adjust things properly and how to take them apart and put them back together. So this is all sales literature though, and the reason I have it, I did have quite a lot of sales literature. I've sold quite a lot of my stuff that I had because I just wasn't looking at it. But the reason I got this is because it is Hart Parr and very early Oliver as well, which is the successor to Hart Parr. So I'm just going to take you quickly through each piece and just to see what we have. So this poster is a poster from Andrews and Bevan Limited, Christchurch, New Zealand, who clearly were a Hart Parr distributor for New Zealand. And the tractor that it's depicting is the 1836 Hart Parr. And it's quite a large poster, fills up most of the table. I was quite surprised when I picked it out of the package, at least, because I didn't realise it was quite as big as it is. I think it's reproduction, but nonetheless, it's going to go in a frame probably and hang on my garage wall, my shed wall, somewhere like that. It's got a bit of wear and tear to it. It's not pristine or anything, but it's clear and legible. And it's basically showing the Hart Parr 1836 from around about the mid-20s. And I know that because the transmission description is for a 2-speed tractor, and that was the early one. The early tractor was 2 speeds. Around about 1927 they changed it to a 3-speed, and so this is a reproduction of a poster from about 1926, I think, pretty much something like that. Now this particular piece of literature, this was advertising what was known as the new Hart Parr from 1919, but it's dated 1930. It's a reprint from 1975, but it's in the last years of the old, what was termed the new Hart Parr, but by this time was a very old design. Again, 1836, 1224, etc. And you can tell that because, first of all, there's a date down in the far corner on the left-hand side, and it's given as reprint 975, but you've got a code there, A155 10M730, and that basically means July 1930. And that was the last knockings of the Hart Parr tractor before Oliver released their new tractor, the 1827. And Oliver had bought out Hart Parr by this time in 1929, and the sales literature that you see here has got the Hart Parr name, but Oliver was uppermost on the advertising literature by this time. And on the inside of that poster, we've got all of the tractors of that period, starting off with the small 1224, the same one that I have from this era, from 1930. The 1836, which is the intermediate size, and then the 2850, which was a 4-cylinder version of the 1224. And the numbers basically mean that 12 was the horsepower that you'd get from the drawbar, and 24 was the horsepower that you'd get on the back of the engine, basically off of the belt, which is the brake horsepower. Right up to 2850, so the 2850 would produce 28 on the drawbar and 50 horsepower at the engine. And there's specifications for all 3 types of tractor, and lots of sales blurb telling you how great Hart Parr tractors are. Again, this one can go in a frame, quite like this, and probably go up on the wall. As long as I don't put it in the sunshine and fade it, I'll be quite happy with it. It's in very good condition, and I haven't seen one like it before, not in this country. So, very pleased. These 2 books are definitely reprint. It actually says it on the inside covers. The one on the left is serial numbers, and it's serial numbers right from the very early days of 1890s, with the original stationary engines that Hart Parr built, right up to the mid to late 60s, when Oliver were building tractors fully in their own name by that time, of course. They had been doing that for about 30 years. And all the serial numbers for every tractor is given in the book. So that's a very useful resource. The one on the right hand side, that is the advertising literature for the 1828 and 2844, and these were the tractors that were built by Oliver, but they had Hart Parr's name on them. So the history of the Oliver Hart Parr company I'll go into in another time, when we can compare tractors and such like. But basically, Oliver bought Hart Parr in 1929, and then they released their own tractor that they'd had on the design table for quite some time. And those tractors look more like tractors that you know from the period of the 1930s and 40s, rather than stationary engines on wheels. They were much more styled. They looked more like tractors we know today. And on the inside front cover, we've got the first tractor, which is the 1828. This was the first four-wheel tractor that Oliver Hart Parr produced in the new era of 1930. And the first actual tractor that came from the stable of Oliver Hart Parr was a tricycle tractor, so a three-wheeler, and it was the 1827. And the numbers mean the same thing as they did on the older tractors, so 18 drawbar and 28 on the belt. And the book goes on to show the 2844. Now, the tractor was quite a large tractor, the 2844, but it was certainly smaller than the 2850 that went before it, and more versatile and a lot easier to operate as well. And the middle of the book shows a cutaway of the tractor. Basically, the 1828 and 2844 were virtually identical except size. So everything was basically scaled up for the bigger tractor, but the internals looked pretty much the same. But it was just the different size engines and gear transmissions, gear cases to handle the extra power. But it's quite useful cutaway pictures like this, especially if you've got an old tractor like this. At least you can see where things are supposed to go. If you're rebuilding one or you're just taking one apart, you've got a bit of an idea of how it's supposed to go back together. So all this stuff is really quite useful. And as with a lot of Hart Parr and Oliver literature, they made a lot of claims about the efficiency and the reliability of their equipment, which did prove to be true actually over the years. The Oliver product and the Hart Parr product was a very, very reliable piece of equipment, and they worked very hard at making it do that, but also they worked very hard at marketing as well. And a lot of the marketing literature from the period makes lots of big claims about how good they were. Going back in time a little bit, again another reproduction compiled by a guy called Alan C. King, who his father actually worked for Oliver back in the 20s and 30s, and was a sales guy for the Hart Parr company and the Oliver company. And this is an advertising book for adverts from 1908 to 1919. And this basically is all of the stuff that went up until the new Hart Parr was designed and released in 1919. So the tractor that I have, the 1224, that tractor was designed or came from the design of 1919 and looked more like a tractor does today. So all the tractors prior to that were big prairie tractors, and they looked very much like this, and they were huge machines, and the horsepower of them was 50, 60, even 100 horsepower, some of these machines on the belt, and they were absolutely massive. The picture on the left is actually got double disking and seeding, 40 acres a day, and that's the sort of output that we have today. But of course, that's huge equipment, and in the turn of the century in America and the prairies, they had all this space where they could use this equipment, so it made sense to make use of it. If they could build a tractor that could do the job, then why not sell it? In the centre of this booklet, we've got the old original tractor on the left-hand side being advertised in 1916, still working, still being produced. But in 1919, we've got the new Hart Parr, which now looks like the ones we're a bit more used to. My 1224 is a direct descendant of the new Hart Parr, and the advert on the right hand side is from 1919 for when these tractors were first released. And the first ones to come out, I believe, were the Hart Parr 20, which was a 20 horsepower machine, followed by the Hart Parr 30, and so on and so forth. Now, Hart Parr are actually the claim to be the founders of the tractor industry. There is some dispute over this, but at the end of the day, Hart Parr definitely produced the first successful tractor in enough quantity to go on and build a business making tractors. enough to be bought out by Oliver, and then eventually they went for the best part of 70 years. Now, there's a dispute over that because Dan Allbone in England also built a very successful tractor called the Ivel, and depending on your point of view, Hart Parr created the tractor or Dan Allbone created the tractor. So there's lots of discussion about this, and this book is in really good condition. It is reproduced from the original publication for basically sales literature for the Hart Parr 60 tractor. Now, this tractor was first designed in 1903 and went right the way through to 1919 in various sizes and configurations. These were four-wheelers, these tractors. They were huge tractors, and there was other variants, 30 horsepower and 40 horsepower, which were actually tricycle tractors, three-wheelers, but they were still on a grand scale of size. But the booklet we've got here is a sales booklet, and it's about 20-30 pages long, showing you all sorts of different things and innovations and features of these tractors and why they were so much better than steam and horses. Hart Parr really did go to town on their marketing and produced some beautiful brochures. They went into quite a lot of technical detail, really, which would have been beyond the comprehension of the farmer. The farmer only really wanted to know that the tractor was reliable. But Hart Parr really went to town on describing how it worked and why it was so much better than what had gone before. And in the centre of this book, they claim that they tested this tractor for 40 hours solid, non-stop. And it's another claim that was made later on the 1836 that they tested the tractor for 264 hours solid non-stop, just kept feeding it with fuel and just let it run and run and run and work and work and work on the belt. And this proved their reliability, and they became very successful in America, and I think Russia, the Far East, and Australia. But they didn't take off so much in this country because they were so big, and tractors of that size really weren't required here, and horses were still king, and steam, of course, until 1930, when tractors became much more compact. And Oliver really never took off in the UK. Some came over, but majority of them stayed in America. And there's hundreds of thousands of Olivers in America, but there's very few in this country, and it makes for an unusual exhibit, and that's why I like them, because it's different. A lot of people have got Fergusons and Fordsons, and I have as well, but the Olivers that I have, I'm quite pleased to show those because it's something that other people don't see very often. So I'm pretty pleased that I've got these booklets. They'll go in my stash of booklets. Some of the stuff will go on the wall as wall art, which I quite like. And yeah, for £25, I really can't sneeze at it. I'm quite pleased that I've got them. And they're in good condition, and I shall keep them that way. So, if you like what you see, and you like to keep up with our mechanical adventures, then please like and subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this video. As a little bit of a what did we buy type video. And I hope that you found it interesting and perhaps a little bit educational. And we'll catch you on the next one, and until then, take care and bye for now.